All right, hello everyone. This is Professor Robert Solis. What we're going to do is we're going to work on taking a flowchart like this guy right here, which is going to help us to draw a diamond shape. And so we want to follow along with this flowchart. This is something that the author has created. We are now in the implementing stage where we are going to implement step by step the process or the logic or the flow of this particular flowchart. So at first, of course, we have to start off with our C++ statements, our boilerplate stuff, include IOStream, all the comments and so forth and so on. So let's see if we can go back and forth. All right, so in this case it says declare counter user num row spaces to draw stars to draw as whole numbers. Well, if we were to translate that, that means we're going to create a bunch of integers. So let's start off with counter, and it's a whole number. So we'll say int counter, and of course semicolon. Looks like I have user num and row spaces to draw, stars to draw as whole numbers. Okay, so int stars to draw as a whole number. Okay, good. So we've declared all of our variables in accordance to the flowchart. Now, what else are we supposed to do? So it looks like there's an arrow that says over here, print diamond size. And then it says to read the user number. So this is asking the user, how big is the diamond supposed to be? All right, so I'll go over here and I'll say cout print, or actually it says over here print diamond size. So I'm just going to ask what the diamond size is. So diamond size. We're going to get that from the user. All right, notice the shape here, this rhombus, is used for reading. So what this means is obtain the data from the user and put it into user num. So instead of read, I use cin. That's the same thing as getting the data from the user. And it says to put it into user num. As you can see over here, read the value, put it into user num. Okay, so that's just a cin statement. All right, so now you'll notice that the line goes all the way over here, and it looks like we are entering into a looping structure. How do I know that? Because check this out. The arrow points over here. As long as this is true, we are going to do this over and over and over again. So this is a looping structure. Now, what are we asking? First of all, we're saying to the user, if the user number is greater than 15 or if the user number is even. So we don't want even numbers, and we want numbers that are less than 15, right? So if the user number is greater than 15, then what are we going to do? We're going to print invalid input, and then we're going to ask again, what's the diamond size? We're going to read that, and we're going to keep on doing this over and over again. So this is like a verification to make sure that the user has, in fact, entered the correct data. Okay, well, first of all, that diamond, I can use a while statement, a do while statement, a for statement. Hey, I'm particularly favorable to the while statement, so we'll just use a while statement. While the user number is greater than 15, okay, so over here, while the user number is greater than 15, let me stop right here, oops, sorry, user num. Let me go back over here, or, okay, so or, and so that's the logical operator for or. And then over here, if the user number is even. Okay, so if the user num mod 2 equals 0. So in other words, if it's even. Now, if any of that is true, then we have to let the user know that an inappropriate data has been entered. How do we do that? Well, over here it says, if that's true, print invalid input. Okay, so I'll say cout invalid input. I'm going to go to the beginning of the next line, so endl. What else do I have to display? Diamond size. So I'm going to ask the user again for the diamond size. So we'll say cout diamond size. Just like we did up here. All right, then I'm going to do what? So let's see here. After I print that, this arrow points to this rhombus, which is a read type of statement. So what are we going to do? We're going to get the data and put that into user num. So we're going to cin and put that into user num. So notice that this while statement keeps on repeating over and over and over again if the user number is greater than 15 or if the user has entered an even number. Now, did I say use modulus? No, you don't see anything over here that says use modulus. You're just going to translate from this idea to a C++ way of determining whether or not the user has in fact entered an even number. Okay. So that takes care of this while statement, as you can see over here. Now, if this is false, that is, if the user number is not greater than 15, or if the user number is not even, then we do something else. We go outside of the while statement, and it looks like we're going to assign 1 to row. So over here, I think we're ready for the calculation portion. We're going to assign 1 to row. What else do I have to do? Spaces to draw is equal to user number divided by 2, and we want the integer version of that. Okay, so let me press enter. Spaces to draw is going to be assigned something. What are we going to assign to it? It looks like it's going to be the integer result of user number divided by 2. So user number divided by 2, but I want to make sure that I have the integer answer of that, so I can cast this thing as an integer like this. So if this is 5, 5 divided by 2 is 2.5, but we want the integer portion of that, so it's going to be 2. Now, here's the thing. These variables, we declared them as integers. So even if I didn't do this, it would still give me only the integer portion of the answer, because an integer divided by an integer yields an integer, right? But we do this for clarification's sake. I mean, this is definitely readable. When you see something like this, the first thing that comes to your mind is, we want the integer result, right? So even though it may be something that the compiler gives you an integer anyway, you might want to consider this, because the most important thing is for your programs to be readable. Okay, what are we supposed to do now? Stars to draw is assigned 1. Okay, so stars to draw, we're going to assign that the number 1. And okay, so after we finish this, now it looks like we enter into this guy over here, a diamond. Our goal is to find out, is this diamond a repetition structure or a type of selection structure like an if statement? So let me zoom out a little bit and let's see. So it looks like I enter into here, I do this stuff. Look at this. The line goes right back into here. So do you see that this is just one big repetition structure, right? So that means that that's a while statement. So let me scroll back over here. While the row is, okay, so let me go back over here. While the row is, let's see here, less than or equal to, all right, less than or equal to, and then it says user num plus 1 divided by 2. Okay, so user num plus 1 divided by 2. While the row is less than user num plus 1 divided by 2. Now, later on we'll take a look at the logic. The idea is we want to make sure that we're drawing the top part of the triangle, and that's what this is doing. As long as we are drawing the top part of the triangle, so I put my open and close curly braces over here. Well, what are we supposed to do? If that's true, it says set the counter to 0. Okay, so counter, set that to 0. Next, let's go over here. Hey, look at this. That's a little while loop, isn't it? See how it's looping over and over and over again? So this is a nested while loop. While the counter is less than spaces to draw. While the counter is less than spaces to draw. That's what this thing is. Well, if that's true, append a space to the output. Okay, so I don't have an output variable, so the only thing that I'll do is I'll just simply do this. I'll append a space to the output. Isn't that what that is doing? It's sending out a space to the output. I could have also created a string variable called output and then send everything to the output variable, but in this case I don't have that, so I'll just simply send a space to the output. Okay, what else are we supposed to do? Increment counter. Okay, so counter plus plus. Now we've just incremented this. So you know what this is doing? This is sending out the initial spaces before we draw our first star for the first row. Okay, so we've done this. Now, this is going to keep on doing this as long as counter is less than spaces to draw. All right, so we keep on doing this over and over again. Once we're done, once this is false, we set the counter to 0. So outside of my while statement, I'm going to set the counter to 0. Hey, Professor Solis, how did you know you were supposed to do this outside of the while statement? Because you can see this is outside of this looping structure right here. So this has to be done after this. That's why I type this after that curly bracket, which belongs to the while statement. This is the while statement. This gets executed outside of the while statement. What do we do next? Oh, look at this. Looks like that's another while statement, as you can see here. Another looping structure. While the counter is less than stars to draw. Okay, so over here, oops, sorry. While the counter is less than stars to draw. Open and close curly braces. That's what this thing does. Append star to output. Okay, so I'll just simply use a cout statement for that, and I'll send a star to the output. What's the next thing we're supposed to do? Increment the counter. All right, so counter plus plus. So you can see what I'm doing. I'm just step by step taking all of the flowchart parts and translating them into C++ statements. This would be something different for Visual Basic, something different for C# or Swift. You are right now acting as translators. That's what you're doing. You're taking logic and changing it into a program. All right, so it looks like we keep on doing this over and over again. Once this is false, okay, so watch this. Once this is false, so let me go outside of the while statement, because now this is no longer true. What am I supposed to do? Decrement spaces to draw. Okay, spaces to draw, minus minus. That's what it means to decrement. What else? Increment stars to draw by 2. Okay, so stars to draw, we're going to increment that by 2. So that's going to be stars to draw plus 2. Now, there's another shorthand notation way of doing this. I could have done this. I could have said stars to draw plus equals 2. And what that does is it just simply says increment stars to draw by 2. Either one of these works fine. I will comment out this one right here, but both of them do the same thing. So you're incrementing stars to draw by 2. What else am I supposed to do? Increment the row. Okay, so row plus plus. Go to the next row. All right, well, in the output, how do we go to the next row? We cout endl. That means go to the beginning of the next line. I'll go to the next row. Let me save my work by clicking Save All. All right. Now, what does this curly bracket belong to? I don't like doing that. I don't know what that belongs to right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll up. I think it belongs to this guy right here. Let's see. Yep, it's selected right here. So what I'll do is I'll select all of this, copy it, go down to that curly bracket, comment, and then paste. Now I know in the future what that bracket belongs to. That bracket belongs to this while statement. You'll see that programmers do this a lot, especially for long programming statements that belong to a while statement, a for statement, what have you, a function. You'll simply put a comment over here indicating what the start of this is. It looks like this guy belongs to this while statement. Should I do the same thing over here? You could, but because it's such a small code fragment, I can clearly see that this belongs to this while statement. Same thing over here. I can clearly see that this belongs to this while statement. But I may not necessarily see that this belongs to this larger while statement over here. I should say outer while statement. So I will copy and paste that, place it over here. Okay, let me go back to the flowchart. So now here we are at the flowchart. It looks like we've done all this stuff. Now look at this. We're supposed to go back over here. Let me follow this line, and that takes me to this while statement over here. While the row is less than usernum plus 1 divided by 2. Okay, so that's this guy over here. While the row is less than or equal to usernum plus 1 divided by 2. Now, while this is true, we keep on doing this over and over and over again. But once it's false, so let me now go over here and press enter. Once it's false, what am I supposed to do? Assign spaces to draw to 1. Okay, so spaces to draw, we're going to assign 1 to it. What else am I supposed to do? stars to draw is going to be user num minus 2. Okay, so stars to draw is going to be whatever the user number is minus 2. Right there. Okay, so that takes care of this. What we've done is we've developed the code to draw the top part of the diamond, which is really a triangle. Now we're getting ready for the bottom part of the diamond, which is an upside down triangle. So what do I have over here? It looks like this may be a repetition statement. I don't know. So let me zoom out and let's just follow the path. If this is true, then we do this, we do this. It looks like we go right back into that diamond. So do you see the pattern here? This is looping. So that means that this guy right here is going to be a looping structure, and I'll use the while statement for this guy over here. While the row is less than or equal to the user number. Okay? So while the row is less than or equal to the user number. Okay. If that's true, then set the counter to 0. Okay? Sorry about that. Set the counter to 0. What am I supposed to do after that? Well, let's see here. It looks like, here's another looping structure. You can see the arrow points right back into this thing. So this is another while statement, say, for example. While the counter is less than spaces to draw. Okay? So while the counter is less than spaces to draw. That's what this says. Well, the counter is less than spaces to draw. If that's true, append a space to the output. Okay? So if that's true, we'll send a space to the output. All right. What are we supposed to do after that? Increment the counter. Okay? Counter plus plus. So now that I've incremented the counter, we keep on doing this while statement over and over and over again while this is true. When this is no longer true, what are we supposed to do? Well, when this is false, we set the counter to 0. Well, first of all, let's get out of the while statement. And it looks like here we're supposed to set the counter to 0. All right, now that we've set the counter to 0, look at this, another repetition structure. I'll just use a while statement. While counter is less than stars to draw. While counter is less than stars to draw. If that is a true statement, then we append a star to the output. Okay, we'll do that in the form of a cout statement, where we will send a star to the output. Next, increment counter. Okay, so counter plus plus. So we keep on doing this while statement over and over and over again while the counter is in fact less than stars to draw. Once that is no longer the case, then what are we supposed to do? So once this is false, it looks like we increment spaces to draw. Okay, so make sure that you are outside of that while statement. See this? See, when this is false, which means that you are outside of this while statement, then increment spaces to draw. So increment spaces to draw, which means plus plus. What else am I supposed to do? Decrement stars to draw. Okay. Oh, wait a minute. Sorry. Decrement stars to draw by 2. Stars to draw is stars to draw, and we decrement it by 2. There is also a shorthand notation. You could have done this. Stars to draw minus equals 2. And what that means is decrement stars to draw by 2. So either one of those is acceptable. I will comment this one out, showing you that you have version 1 or version 2. Increment row. Okay, row plus plus. Go to the next row. All right, cout endl statement. That means go to the beginning of the next row. Because this while statement is a little bit large, I'm going to take this while, copy, paste it over here at the end so that I know that this curly bracket belongs to this while statement. Comments or questions? Okay. All right, well, let's see what happens. Okay, so after we do this, we're supposed to go back over here to this while statement. When this is no longer true, what does it say? End of program. Wow, so I think we've solved everything. Let's see what happens. So I'm going to save my work, run the program. First, I want to enter some fictitious or inappropriate data. Diamond size 4. Up, invalid input. Okay, how about this? Diamond size 22. Nope, invalid. All right, how about I enter an odd number, like 23? That's still invalid because remember, we're supposed to enter up to 15. All right, so how about if I enter 11? Let's see what happens. Okay, so it looks like, uh-oh, I think I put that end else statement. I must have put it inside of a quotation mark. Press any key to continue. So let's go ahead and debug the code and see what I did wrong. Yeah, I put it in quotes. My mistake. That's what I'm supposed to do. We're not supposed to send out the word endl. It's just supposed to endl go to the beginning of the next line. Let's see what happens now. So run the program. Let's try 5. Nice. 5 rows. The top triangle is drawn. The bottom triangle is drawn. Very good. Let me try the program again with 11. Okay, that's pretty nice. Let's see what happens with 13. Okay, that's pretty nice too. And then of course we have this, the author says that we're only supposed to draw it as long as the user number is not greater than 15. If it's greater than 15, then this won't work. But I could change that, of course, if I wanted to. I could put a variable in here so that I'm not hard coding and change that to whatever number I want. So if I said 21, say for example, run this program again, and let me type in 19, which is certainly less than 21. There you go. Looks pretty good. I'll go back to what the user wants, or what the author wants, which was 15. All right, and so that's how you transfer the data from a flowchart like this, which is basically giving you the logical flow of how to solve a problem, to, in this case, a C++ program. All right, this is Professor Robert Solis. I hope this video lesson was helpful. Have a good day. See you next time.